At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lórax. Today we're going to talk about adaptations.
One ring to rule them all.
Adapting a pre-existing work, be it a novel, comic book, or even a children's book, has got to be one of the most difficult, thankless jobs in Hollywood, and invariably the loudest voices against changing things for adaptation are going to be the fans of the original work who can't stand to see their precious perfect story tampered with by these Hollywood phonies. Now, as someone who long ago gave up on the futile endeavor that is fan loyalty, I tend to be a bit more forgiving. The Lord of the Rings is an excellent, if perhaps a touch flawed, adaptation. The 25th Hour, based on a novel, is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I even liked the much-maligned 2005 version of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah, that's right. Oh, what, fanboys, you want to fight? First off, Hollywood movies have much more structured demands, acts, and characters than pretty much any other medium, so changes in adaptation aren't just inevitable, they are necessary. Film is a different medium. It incorporates other elements such as sound, time, a billion people working on it, and most importantly, a different person with a different vision at the helm. Shit will change.
You wouldn't hit a woman. That's a woman?
Now, all that said, when something is so beloved that the film industry feels it worthy of adaptation, it's probably got a really easy to fuck up theme or characters beloved by an audience that they connect with. And due to the extreme restrictions placed upon Hollywood screenplays, especially on family movies, there's a lot that can go wrong.
Did you chop down this tree?
Illumination Entertainment's The Lórax, adapted from Theodore Seuss Geisel's extremely short book of the same name. Where do I begin? Well, obviously in rhyme. A film only superficially related in theme, a film too good for Seuss's tone or rhyme scheme. It's cheeky, irrelevant, an unmemorable musical. Unoriginal, hackneyed, and not very Seussical. And I know it's not what I'm normally about, to harp on a movie the week it comes out, but I posit, why would anyone take this adaptation in lieu of the one I grew up with, from 1972? But really, who wants to watch some noxious dilettante keep up a review all in rhyme, obviously? I can't. So here is the part where I stop playing the bard as we take a look at why this new movie sucks so hard. Okay, I'm done, I promise.
I am the Lórax. I speak for the trees.
In the wake of the new film, bringing attention to one of the less well-known Seuss books, some have said that the book is a B-list Seuss at best, which I disrespectfully disagree. I think it's engaging, interestingly set up, and told from an interesting point of view, that of the guy who ruined everything, to the avatar for future generations, nameless boy. So the Lórax was written before climate change was a thing, but while the environmental movement was just becoming a thing.
When good monsters get together.
So this little short's more about pollution, littering, things that make the Italian guy pretending to be Native American cry.
People can stop it.
The 1972 short was not only produced by Dr. Seuss, he also wrote the teleplay and the lyrics to the new songs.
Under the trees, in our barbaloot suits.
To me, the TV short has more complexity and pathos to it than the book. Suddenly, the Onceler is a bit more compelling. The resolute Lórax is more sympathetic because we see his plight. He's more than just a whiner. So when I get my panties in a twist at the thing that just came out, it's less in comparison to the book than the animated short, which acknowledged certain things like, corporations employ people and make us stuff.
It's a shirt.
Maybe not necessary stuff, but stuff.
It's a hat.
So before we get to why the 2012 remake is most hateful, awful thing that ever existed, let us first explore the 72 adaptation. The Lórax is told from the point of view of the story's antagonist, known as the Onceler, an ambitious entrepreneur of indeterminate species who discovers that the beautiful tufts of the Trúfula trees are the perfect material to make a product called a thneed.
A need, a fine something that all people need.
The Onceler is opposed by a little mustachioed guy called the Lórax. He speaks not only for the trees, but for the brown barbaloots, and the swami swans, and the hummingfish, all of whom eventually have their ecosystems destroyed by the pollution from the Onceler's thneed factories.
Oh, their future is dreary.
I hear things are just as bad up in Lake Erie.
The Lórax repeatedly begs the Onceler to halt his polluting ways, but the Onceler, more interested in profits, refuses to hear out the Lórax until the Trúfula tree goes extinct, and the Lórax lifts himself by the seat of his pants into the sky. The story is told by the Onceler to some kid.
A thought? About what?
Yeah, who are you? And the story ends with the Lórax leaving a single word.
Unless?
Yes, unless.
And the regretful Onceler giving the very last of the Trúfula seeds to this boy, and an ambiguous yet cautiously optimistic ending.
Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not.
It's a bit of a downer, which makes it perhaps not the best choice for adaptation, but we'll get to that in a minute. Made by the same guys who made How the Grinch Stole Christmas and pretty much all of the early animated adaptations, the original Lórax was, what's the word? Good. It was good.
But I'm going to continue to speak for the trees.
Though even at just 22 minutes it feels a bit flabby. It was good. It was ahead of its time. No, scratch that. It was firmly a product of its time. It's ahead of this time. A real honest-to-God remake of the Lórax might feel a touch too uncomfortable in these environmentally controversial times. It'd bring people down. And that assumption would be correct.
Far outside of town where the grass never grows.
Grass never grows? What's wrong with Gricklegrass, Grammy? Hey, Betty White, as the only good thing about this movie, I demand that you answer me. What's wrong with Gricklegrass? Why did you change that line, movie? Did it not test well? The main character is no longer the Onceler, but the nameless boy, played by Zac Efron, surprise, who lives in a strange corporate-run totalitarian state that is headed not by the Onceler, but by a whole other bad guy who runs yet another evil corporation, this time selling air, like the Culligan Man. Identical in many ways to the bad guy from Despicable Me, Aloysius O'Hare is a polluting bad guy who pollutes because it drives up profits, and polluting is fun. Effective and punchy, like any Captain Planet villain.
With this giant land blaster, I'll be able to drill for oil anywhere.
The Onceler is no longer the antagonist. He's now a wide-eyed innocent, practically forced into entrepreneurship by his evil southern mother and his stupid southern family.
Would you stop throwing that bear?
He's also got a face. I don't like that he has a face. Guess it was too much creative effort to figure out how to do it without a face. Whatever. Watered down now is his agency in the interest of making him palatable and sympathetic. In fact, the slope of destruction where the Onceler builds his giant corporation, that which takes up a good 15 of the 22 minutes of the short, is reduced to a single 2-minute and 53-second musical number in the 90-minute movie. Most of the portions with the Onceler and the Lórax, that which takes up most of the original animated short, by the way, are devoted to their bromance. What? The Barbaloots and the Hummingfish are also just clearly modeled on the success of the minions from Despicable Me. A bunch of yellow pill-looking guys who are already rip-offs to begin with. If Horton Hears a Who benefited from anything, it's from coming out before Despicable Me. Wow. Hate? The worst thing about even bothering to include these guys was that in the book, the Lórax sends them off one by one as their ecosystems are destroyed, respectively. This takes up a good chunk of the animated short and the book, but the 90-minute movie, the Barbaloots, the Swami Swans, and the Hummingfish get sent off all at once. So, I posit, why pad the rest of the damn thing if you're gonna squish the majority of the book into literally 3 minutes? The Lórax spends most of the movie complaining about what the Onceler might do rather than what the Onceler actually is doing. Again, time spent on making the Onceler sympathetic. Though one scene is added where the Lórax quite literally tries to kill the Onceler and only saves him because one of the indispensable, awful Barbaloots went with him.
Actually, I put your bed in the water.
Dude, that waterfall is like 50 feet down the river. You cannot tell me you didn't know about the world's biggest waterfall. See, this takes something away from the Lórax as a benign pleader into an attempted murderer on the offense.
Who taught you guys how to steal a bed?
Now, I understand that they need to pad the damn thing and make it feature length, and character building exercises are a good way to do that, and this is certainly better than some of the things they decided to do in Horton Hears a Who to make it 90 minutes.
Horton is the greatest hero of them all, huh?
I think that accomplished a lot. Thanks for that, movie. I'm just saying, in this movie, they added a lot of stupid shit at the expense of, you know, the story that was already there. Also, better. Thing is, they already made this movie successfully. It was called WALL-E.